We are now talking to B Roto fantasy football writer Luke Renton. What's going on, Luke?
Hey man, you okay?
I love the English accent, by the way. I love it, man. It's so interesting because I've been to England. I DJ'd out there. I was in London for about 3 months when I was in my 20s. I absolutely enjoyed it over there. The food's terrible, I'll tell you that.
Oh, it is. It's awful.
It's awful. It's absolutely awful. But I actually lost like 30 pounds when I was there. Okay,
I'm not surprised, mate. I'm not surprised.
but I love it over there. It's a great city, great people, and they actually love us New Yorkers. Not every place loves New York people, but over there in London, they like us. So I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I've been in New York a couple of times, so yeah, I've had great experiences out there, to be fair. So yeah, can't complain whatsoever.
Well, the women love those London guys, that's for sure. They love the accents.
Do try.
So why don't we get into, obviously, how did you get into B Roto and obviously fantasy football? What started you? England over there, it's more soccer, it's more European football. How did you get into football over there?
I'll be honest, it started probably about 5 years ago. I started playing a bit of fantasy football with some workmates. And through the back of that, it was purely because obviously, like you say, over our way, it's a lot more soccer. So obviously I'll play in fantasy football through the soccer formats. A few of the mates at work said, why don't you get involved in some of the fantasy football stuff? So I did that. Absolutely loved it. Got into Red Zone off the back of that, obviously watching it to make sure which one of my players were performing every week. And rather than supporting a team, I'm more so just following my fantasy players.
Right.
And then the more I developed into the game, that's when I found a love for it. I've got an NFL UK season ticket at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And yeah, go to games every single year whenever I can. And yeah, found a bit of a love for the Minnesota Vikings. So followed them for the last 5 years, and yeah, the rest is history from there, really.
You know, it's so funny. I talk about this on the show all the time. When it comes to basketball, when it comes to now, obviously, football, it's no longer the love of the team. Now the new age of football and fantasy sports, it's changed the game. It's changed sports. Because now you're not following a team. You're following a player. You're following your fantasy players. So
absolutely,
you're not rooting for the team. You're rooting for your fantasy players.
Sounds bad. There's been times I've even rooted against players against the Vikings purely because I need some points every week. So, yeah, I find myself on a weekend, on a Sunday, if the Vikings are on, as bad as it sounds, I'm watching Red Zone because I'm a lot more invested in my fantasy team than I am my Vikings, as bad as it sounds. But, yeah, I'm always keeping an eye on my fantasy players, seeing how they're getting on. And, yeah, that's the reason why I tune into Red Zone every week, really.
So what is the overall consumption like of the NFL in England throughout experiences that you've had? I know they have the London games, I think now 3 times a year or something like that. I remember the first London game because I'm a Giants fan. It was in 2007 against Miami. So what is the overall consumption of it like from a cultural standpoint?
It's getting a lot bigger over here. I'm going to say the amount of groups and different areas that I'm involved in the UK. We've got our first fantasy football meet up in London this year, where we've got writers and really keen players coming from all over the country. So, yeah, so we're getting it's getting a lot more involved. Like you say, obviously, still got a bit of a catch-up to do in terms of getting to the levels of soccer and all the other UK sports over here. But, yeah, it's getting absolutely massive. Like I said, even Sky Sports have dedicated a channel purely to the NFL now. So it is a lot more in our face than what it used to be even just a couple of years ago, which is great. So, yeah, it's actually took over probably the NBA in the UK. So that was a big thing. And then obviously the NBA London games took away from us, and obviously the NFL's stayed and keeps growing and growing. Obviously with the Jaguars announcing the partnerships in the UK, even my Vikings as well, that they're a dedicated UK partner as well. So yeah, we're all getting a lot more invested in the game, big time.
You probably don't want the Jaguars.
No, not so much. Not so much.
We are talking to B Roto fantasy football writer Luke Renton. So, Luke, obviously we're talking about England, and it's late over there. What is it, like 3 o'clock in the morning over there?
Yeah, coming up 3 o'clock.
There you go. It's late over there, and you're on a radio show. We really appreciate you joining us. So going into the offseason, obviously there are certain players that are a lot of players that have moved to different spots, including quarterbacks. I mean, Russell Wilson goes to the Broncos. I mean, Khalil Mack goes to the Chargers. I mean, so many players have fled from the NFC and gone to the AFC. The AFC had become a powerhouse. The NFC is slowly but surely falling apart, so it opens up a lot of possibilities for your Minnesota team over there.
Oh, big time. Yeah, it's worked out pretty well for us.
So going into the offseason, and now they've jumped ship, what do you look for now that fantasy – the fantasy after the draft, we're going to be talking about fantasy and what players to go after in fantasy. What do you see happening now that a lot of teams have fled to go to the AFC?
Like I said, obviously for Minnesota Vikings, straight away I'm looking at that thinking Aaron Rodgers has lost his main weapon. And you look around him, MVS has obviously gone to Kansas. Straight away that wide receiver room for the Packers looks absolutely awful. And it's one of those where for the Vikings in the NFC North, I don't see anybody better than us in that division, if I'm honest. It is that simple. So it opens it up a lot more for us.
Did you hear what's going on with Odell Beckham? That Odell Beckham looks like he's going to choose Green Bay. There's nothing sure yet, but it looks like it's going to be Green Bay.
If that again, it really don't bother me. As you can see by the cut, this is my man. There's nobody better than that guy. And all that I'm going to say is, I know Chase has had all the hype and all that. Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver. I just love everything about watching him week in, week out. Obviously, I'm going to be a bit biased on that front, but I really don't think there is a wide receiver in the game better than him at the moment. Over the last couple of years, he's put up consistent numbers ever since coming out of college into the NFL. So he is my guy. And yeah, I think obviously, even if the Packers do bring in OBJ, it really doesn't bother me.
Right now, he's now we've seen this with OBJ, and then all of a sudden he fell apart because of injury. But Justin Jefferson is slowly but surely he's moving towards obviously Jerry Rice kind of numbers. Now Jerry Rice, his numbers are better than Jerry Rice was in his first 2 years. So if Justin Jefferson can stay healthy and slowly but surely keep playing the way he is, he could go down as one of the greatest wide receivers in football. No question.
And you look at that as well. Obviously, Adam Thielen signed again. I'm a massive, massive fan of Irv Smith as well. Obviously, I know injuries last year ruled him out for the year, but you look at it now. Obviously, if he's back fit and healthy, losing Conklin, he's going to play a big role in that offense as well. And Dalvin Cook, again, one of the best running backs in the business.
I think he is. Honestly, I'm just going to say if Dalvin Cook could actually stay healthy, Dalvin Cook is, to me, the best all-around running back in all of football.
I completely agree.
But he doesn't stay healthy. Yeah. That's a problem.
This is it. He misses 5, 6, 7 games a season and ends up dropping out of a lot of game time as well. But if he stays healthy, you've got JJ on the other side, Thielen, and Irv Smith Jr., if he's back fit and healthy as well this year and comes up and pulls the potential I think he's got and shown, then I think we got by far the best offense in the NFC.
I think losing Tyler Conklin will hurt them this year because
big time,
He was a big blanket for Cousins this year, and he slowly but surely grew into a big target for Kirk Cousins this year. I was very surprised, and the Jets adding 2 really good tight ends to that roster. I think it was a very good. I'm a Jet fan, so I was very happy when I heard Tyler Conklin's coming to the Jets because they're going to use him kind of like a fullback type of player. So I think that's the type of player that they're going to use him as, and I'm very excited to see what these tight ends could do.
Yeah, we all know why CJ went over though.
So
Kenny Adams.
So you as a Vikings fan, they brought in a new coach in Kevin O'Connell, coming over from the Sean McVay coaching tree with the Rams, an offense that just won the Super Bowl, an offense that's been very successful. So what do you think he'll bring not only as a head coach, but also to this offense, trying to get the most out of these players on this loaded offense, like you were saying?
Yeah, for me, it is just purely just we needed some fresh blood. It's as simple as that. Obviously, it was the same procedure for so long. And looking at Vikings fans that I'm well connected with, they're all the same opinion. It was just the same old. And every year, rather than having a goal of trying to get to the playoffs and the Super Bowl, we're always let's see if we can try and keep up pace with Green Bay, which for a team, when you look on paper at our team, we should be the team who Green Bay are trying to, we're on par with, or Green Bay are trying to keep up with. But we've always had that mentality of just trying to maybe win 10 games a year, which I think with the new coaching staff, obviously they're already hungry for it. I can see as really. I've said it all along, and a lot of other areas that I've spoke on. I can see the Vikings really pushing on for a playoff spot big time this year and winning that NFC North. And yeah, I'm going to say, look at it. Patrick Peterson's re-signed. That's an area that really did worry me with a cornerback spot. And I can see us really going in for a cornerback in the NFL draft as well, which is coming up, obviously. And I don't know, somebody, again, I know he had a good pro day the other day, but Derek Stingley's one that I'd really love to see.
He's not going to be there for them.
He's not going to drop that far, which is a shame.
Unless they trade up for him.
Yeah, I'm going to say that is an option. That is an option. But yeah, he was dropping down a lot of draft boards. And then obviously he did his pro day. And
I don't see him dropping past 12. Okay,
no.
If I see maybe, because right now I know the Jets could trade out of that number 10 pick if Minnesota and the Jets have traded before. The Jets traded with Minnesota last year to get Elijah Vera Tucker. So maybe the Jets help out Minnesota and return the favor for them. But I
hope so. Stingley he's I'd go as far. I know. Obviously, the word gets thrown out a lot, but he's got the potential to be a generational player. Really, in my opinion, he really has.
As everybody knows, we are talking to B-Roto fantasy football writer Luke Renton. So we talked a lot about Minnesota. And going back to the AFC, and I think the AFC is stacked. I mean, you look at that division with Kansas City. Right now, going into the season, as of right now, Kansas City is probably the worst team out of the 4 or 5 teams in that division. Let's just go through the division. Las Vegas adds a new coach. They added a top-end wide receiver, some great defensive players in the Vegas Oakland
Raiders.
I say the Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders. Then you have the Broncos. They added Russell Wilson. So you added the quarterback, which really was their weakness the last couple of years. Ever since Peyton Manning has been gone, they've always had a good, strong defense. They've always had, good young wide receivers. Now all of a sudden they have a quarterback, and I one of the guys on our network, our home of our show and our morning show. He says that the Broncos, he believes, is going to come out of the AFC, which I'm very, very surprised about that. How about the Chargers with the defensive, prowess that they've added? They added J.C. Jackson. They added, obviously, what's his name? Khalil Mack. And, with that defense, with Derwin James, well. It's fantastic. They have the wide receivers back next year, and also Eckler and at running back, and obviously a very young quarterback that's becoming a superstar right in front of our eyes. That division is the best division in football. What do you think about that division?
Again, like I say, Kansas are the one that, to me, do look the weak. After losing Tyreek Hill and I know Juju's obviously not a bad replacement, but you do look at the teams around them, and they've all strengthened. Like I say, I've said numerous times to various other companies that I spoke to, the Chargers are going to be the dark horse this year. Like I say, looking at their defense, absolutely insane. To have Khalil Mack, Bosa, J.C. Jackson, then you look on the other side of the ball, and that offense they've got, and like I say, one of the best quarterbacks probably coming out in the last couple of years. They are going to be there or thereabouts. I'm not sold on the Broncos yet, if I'm honest. Again, Russell Wilson, he had a pretty average year, but by any stretch of the imagination. So you look at that, and obviously the weapons he's got, are they really? I know they're a lot more talented, but are they actually any better or any more well proven than what he had in Seattle? I'm still sat on the fence about that one, if I'm honest. So to me, obviously, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, the worst of the teams there, you're probably looking at either Kansas or Denver still.
Really?
But it is nice. It is a bit more convincing to see that
Denver's stacked defensively. They're stacked defensively.
Absolutely.
And I think offensively, they got the weapons. They just needed a quarterback to get them the ball. And by the way, they have a good running game. They have Williams still there, a young running back that can run all over the field. I think they're going to be very, very good.